can AI and quantum genuinely serve sustainable development? Genuinely serve. So we hear not about greenwashing, right? We're here to have a close scrutiny, and we're also here to speak about a strategic and industrial asset, of course. Is it just something of a pipe dream, or can this become an asset for industry and an asset for a country or for a continent, France or Europe, amid the intense competition in AI and quantum? So I'll introduce first the panelist, Yves Cazot. So Chief Data and Information Officer of the Michelin Group, and also a member of the Académie des Technologies, and also used to be one of the first researchers in AI quite some time ago. And then we'll have Georges Raymond, CEO of Pascal, and he's also a physicist, of course, as many people in Pascal, PhD in physics. And he's among the 4 co-founders of Pascal, among which we have also Alain Aspect, my former professor at École Polytechnique, Prix Nobel. And then we will have Guillaume Avrin, online, coordinateur de la stratégie d'IA auprès de la Direction générale des entreprises du ministère des Finances. And he's also Centralien. I'm so proud. I was Deputy Dean of Central, and he also is PhD in robotics, if I'm right.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And then we'll have Neil Abroug, also online. He's also about coordinating the national strategy by the Direction générale des entreprises, Ministère des Finances, but now for quantum computing, and he was also an engineer in SA and a PhD in applied math. Is that correct?
Yes. That's right.
So, we will try here to have a sort of a honest discussion between scientists, industrialists, and of course talk about strategy. So the first question I will ask to Yves Cazot is about use cases, right? And, what would be those use cases where those Pascalines, AR or quantum, would contribute really the most to sustainable development? And we all know that there's a trap in that question, because we all know that there is the rebound effect. If you have something which is more efficient, you will use it more. So at the end of the day, you use more energy. So there's that question here. And I'm very interested in the answer of Yves Cazot, because he's also a specialist in system science.
So thank you for the question. I will give you 3 examples, I think. I will start with the future of tire, and you probably guessed that at Michelin we are really excited about sustainable mobility. A tire has 2 functions from a physics perspective. It sticks to the ground and it holds weight. So the part that holds weight in an ideal tire that has 0 impact is fully recycled. The part that creates the friction has to get used, so it cannot be fully recycled. It has to be totally biodegradable and made from either recycled or biosourced material. So that's the challenge. That's our goal. Why do we need AI for that? We need to invent new materials and new tire architecture. So we need all kinds of AI. Mostly what we do today is combine machine learning with regular simulation, finite elements. And that's a big stretch. So we also need, that's a great place for quantum computing. You probably have heard the DeepMind claim that they can use machine learning to do much better and much faster than physics model for weather forecast. Our idea is to combine both. We use machine learning, which is fast, to combine with the more traditional element, because we need both. So that's first example. Second example is once you know what to do, you have to manufacture it. And when you manufacture in the world of the future, where everything comes either from recycled material or biosourced material, the viability of your input material is much bigger. When you buy what you need from the petrochemistry, it's bad for the planet, but they give you extremely consistent and stable products. If you have to adapt, you need to change your algorithm, your parameter, the way you cook your tire, the way you think of it as a cake. And we know from experience that when you use deep learning applied to adaptive process control, you get better performance. So we know that in order to achieve the same level of consistency that you expect as a driver, because you want your tire it's a safety element of your car, you cannot afford to fail, we need new technology. So those are two very non-greenwashing examples where we know that we need to push the science boundary to create the tire of the future, and that requires AI. But to go further on circular economy only works if there is trust. Because if I tell you that your tire is made from natural rubber that comes from a well-managed forest, the question is, am I lying to you, or can I prove that? To prove, you have to use digital certificates. You need trust at scale. You need digital. You need hyperledger blockchains, not the bad kind, but the good kind. You need technology. You need platforms. And I don't want to spend too much time, but as soon as you have platforms, you need AI, and you're back to what AI can bring to a truly greener world. Quantum is needed on that journey. So, because those are really big challenges, the challenges of simulating either chemistry or physics. But also, if you want to invent new digital mobility system, you need to do large-scale simulations. So I'll come back on that, and I'll stop there for a first answer.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because, of course, I talked before about the company, a meaningful company. You're not, when you're Michelin, you're not going to degrade the real service that the people trust you for. So you want to have the same or even a better tire quality. And at the same time, you want it to be really completely circular or completely green. And it's very fascinating here. If you want to match both the customer satisfaction and also sustainable development, you need AI, you need those Pascaline. That's quite stimulating.
Yeah, doing a zero carbon impact tire, it's a huge scientific challenge, but we see this as a huge opportunity. Michelin spends twice more on R&D for the last decades than our competitors. So it's a hard challenge. We don't know how to solve it today, but we have the deep belief that if someone can solve it, it's Michelin.
So I would like to turn now to Guillaume Avrin. You know, we have this use case brought forward by a big a French industrialist. And now if we look a bit wider into the national French AI strategy, and we know that this national AI strategy takes the place at the same time where the government is also pushing forward things about sustainable development, and after the last COP in Paris. So how would you say, from the use case perspective, is there something to do, a discussion between the national AI strategy and those sustainable use case? Are you looking for examples there?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Very happy to be here with you today, and it's also a very good opportunity to have the opportunity to identify the best synergy between the quantum strategy of my colleague Neil and the national strategy for AI. So very happy of this table, and thank you for the invitation. Regarding the question, I would say, so in the national strategy for AI, what we call frugal AI is one of the main pillars of this national strategy. So it's not really, you were talking about the use cases. This part, I mean, the main aspect related to this frugal AI axis of the national strategy for AI is really about the technology, right? We are trying to make sure, regarding the objective of the COP28 that you were mentioning, regarding the national strategy that is called France Nation Verte, France Green Nation, also with the 22 thematics that have been identified regarding the ecological planning for France. We are making sure that the AI system we are designing are sustainable. I mean, the objective is really to find a way to disseminate as much as possible AI in our companies, in our society. But if we want this commercialization to be a success, it has to be sustainable, right? And so looking for a frugal aspect of AI, but also trying to identify the best use cases, as you were saying, where we can use AI for the ecological transition. And so we have a call for project that has been launched within the National Strategy for AI that is called DIAT. It's about in the the regional area collectivities, making sure that we have the right tools to accelerate the implementation of frugal AI system for the ecological transition of our territories. So, for example, you have the Bordeaux Metropole that is using this kind of AI system in order to optimize the design of new public buildings, new infrastructure in the city. So using AI to optimize the different parameters associated with this design. You also have the EGN, that is a public body that is analyzing the images and trying to use AI in order to automatically recognize the part of the cities that are with buildings, the part of the cities that are with forests, in order to be able to optimize the way cities are designing their different areas, are designing their roads, their green areas, and so on. So, and you have many other applications of frugal AI for the ecological transition of our cities. You have also the use of AI for water management, for the management of the energy consumption of our public buildings, and so on. So many different use cases in application areas of frugal AI that you could use in order to accelerate this transition towards a more sustainable environment for the general public, for our public administration, and so on. So, but
Okay.
what is very important, I think, to have in mind is that facilitating the implementation and the design and the commercialization of frugal AI is, in fact, also a very good way to be competitive. Because if the AI systems that are designed in France, in Europe, with our international partners are frugal, it means that they are consuming less energy for the training, for the inference. So it means they are more competitive, right? So it's, in fact, the economical aspect and the ecological aspect associated with frugal AI are getting together and align regarding the French national strategy for AI that we are trying to implementing. So yeah, in the end, and with the other France strategy for the digital war, so the one from Neil and the one from cybersecurity, the one about 5G, the one about cloud, and so on. We are trying to make sure all together that the digital technology we are deploying are frugal and are going in the direction of the ecological transition. Thank you.
I think I want to challenge you a bit now, because okay, that's great, that's fantastic. We're into frugal AI, and now I understand that if I buy a Michelin tire, not only it's going to be the best tire in the world, but it's also going to be zero carbon. That's amazing. Okay, thanks to AI. Now I want to challenge you a bit back to this rebound effect, right? Because we're very much here about optimizing systems, right? We optimize energy, and it's okay, we're going to produce as much energy with less carbon. We're going to produce as much transport with less resources. Yeah, and then come the rebound effect. When it's more efficient transport, we'll go into more transport. We're going to more energy use. And at the end of the day, what do we have? So Yves, do you have something to say, particularly in the area of mobility, which is somehow the sector of Michelin?
No, I don't have much to say, in the sense that you have a large number of stakeholders, and it's a very complicated system. So many things can happen. There is a possibility of a world where the progress that we make in terms of carbon impact are blown away by a rebound effect. It's not the most likely though, but for many other feedback loops that are outside I mean, I would need 2 hours to tell you why I think that although in theory it's possible that the rebound effect would sort of take away our efforts, I think it will not. But it's not in our hands. So short answer for Michelin is that's what you do with your car is your decision, and Michelin has nothing to do with it.
Of course, it's a very difficult question. One of the things maybe you didn't say is that for this kind of issue, AI is also useful, and complex system modeling is also interesting to actually simulate this kind of scenario and look which are those variables which are the most important to avoid the rebound effect. So there's also a promise of tech on that difficult question, and I know that you've been publishing things on that. Okay, so now maybe we'll go into the second chapter of our discussion. We've been talking about use case, and now Guillaume told us that there's a big priority about frugal AI. And so maybe now I look a bit more back onto quantum, and we talk about with this hackathon about the promise of quantum, you know, dividing by several orders of magnitude the amount of energy which is consumed in the IT, which is a big question because we know the IT consumption, those servers, everything is building up so exponentially on the carbon emission. So maybe I'll talk to Georges as a physicist. Can you tell me a bit more about hardware? Why is there that potential for a quantum energy advantage? Is it about the laser versus the silicon we have on traditional computer?
So again, I'm a very practical guy, pragmatic. So, and just to prepare my answer. So we are talking about computing, but just to set the scene, I don't know who ever visited a data center today. A data center, okay, some of you. So a data center, it's a building probably as large as the one we are in, full of processors, of GPUs and hard drives. And there is a second building next to it, which is the plant, the power plant, because you need to power all these CPUs. We are talking here about tens of megawatts of electrical power. So this is something huge. And today I think that the digital sector overpassed the production of dioxide carbon, or overpassed the air traffic sector. So this is an issue which is really pressing. So that being said, when I created Pascal 4 years ago, I was aware that the processor by itself was very low energy intensive. We are talking about a couple of kilowatts. You can plug it in your kitchen if you want to. It's the equivalent of 4 hair dryers, just by measuring it without any effort. So that's my pragmatic answer. And I think why it is so energy not intensive is, I think that quantum computing is highly efficient. That's the heart of a computer, and also because the manufacturing of a processor by itself is also as a low footprint. Basically, our processor is built out of bare metals, glass, and electronics. You know, there is no heavy industrial process involved in the manufacturing. So when you put everything together, yes, the impact is very low. So that was the initial thought. And you know, in my journey as an entrepreneur, I realized that it was not enough. It was a good start, but then on my way, I realized that, okay, we are building a new tool. It's low energy intensive, which is a good thing. We will be able to speed up high performance computing without increasing the need of energy. But what about the applications? We can also have an impact with the applications. Of course, I do not pretend that we will develop all the applications and that we will, let's say, handle this, but we need to take our part. And it was at the core of this initiative, of this hackathon, to promote the use of this new tool for good.
Thank you very much, George. Actually, we worked a bit together and we opened up the machine and we tried to undertake this kind of life cycle analysis and to count the amount of metal, what kind of chemical elements you need to build this computer. And quite quickly, we came up with the issue, which is the issue of the supply chain and which is the issue of the enabling technology. If you want to build energy efficient or low carbon industrial asset, you need to have suppliers. And the question was, hey, laser guys, what is your carbon emission? And that's one of the questions I would like maybe to ask to Neha Brook. If we go a bit wider, not just in the example of Pascal, if you look more into the quantum sector in France, which is a sort of a supply chain with a different quantum providers and different quantum software developers, is there a sort of, the potential for an energy initiative, suppliers working with end users to make sure that all along the quantum chain, people would work together? Is there something maybe now or maybe tomorrow in the quantum strategy to address this issue more on a national perspective, not just at Pascal scale? Do you read us, Neil? Oh, I think we lost him. Okay, so maybe George will start answering.
Yeah, I can give the point of view of Pascal on that. For me, it's too early. I mean, trying to optimize the supply chain, for me, it's too early. We are still in the first phase of building the new tool, of building the quantum computer. Let's make it work. Let's live up to the expectation of having something which has a low carbon footprint. And believe me, this is already a challenge. And as we saw during the hackathon, I mean, the results are very optimistic. I mean, we have indeed an impact. And I think then in the second step, when the technology, when the business will be more mature, then again, yes, we will be able to optimize. But as of now, I mean, we did absolutely nothing on optimizing the processor. We did the math, and we saw that it's good. So let's keep up with that, and we will improve later on.
Do we? Yeah. So it's a technology in its infancy, and it's not yet a supply chain planning, multilateral social chain mapping. Is Neil with us? Can he answer on
Yes.
on the
Yes,
view?
I have been disconnected just before the talking.
Okay, so yeah, do you have a word on the French strategy regarding those energy issue or carbon emission issue?
Yes. So when we talk about quantum computing, we're talking about reversible computing. That means that its energy consumption is zero. The computation itself. The only consumption comes from the enabling technology. The only consumption came from making cold from the phages or lasers, depending on the technology, and from making vacuum. And that's why in the French quantum strategy, we have a dedicated pillar to this enabling technology. From one side, from security procurement, but also because of this energy impact of quantum computing. And if we take two examples, we have two dedicated programs to develop the next generation of lasers that have been that will be done by Institut d'Optique, the same lab from where came the company Pascal, and also a dedicated program with TNRS on next generation fridges, because if we would like to scale up the number of qubits in the technologies that are based on dilution fridges like silicon or superconducting qubits, we need to take in account the energy efficiency of these machines. So you cannot make 1,000, 10,000 qubits without taking into account the energy consumption of cables, of electronics, of the qubits themselves in a whole and systematic approach. And that's the aim of this CryoNext program. And what I would like also to highlight, so on the top of these government-funded programs, there is an ecosystem initiative that is called the Quantum Energy Initiative, led by Alexia Ofev, on the study of the physics and the thermodynamics of the energy of quantum computing. It's really important to address these topics because quantum computers, we hope that they would have a computational advantage. So making things that are not feasible by classical computers, but maybe before that, we can have an energy advantage, computing the same things like high performance computers, but with less energy consumption.
Thank you very much, Neil. Actually, we had a talk with Robert Whitmay, who opened up the academic view on modeling this kind of efficiency issues on the energy scale up. So maybe, now we'll come up. We've been discussing about the use case. We've been discussing about the hardware, but in between the hardware and the use case, we have those algorithms, right? And there's a lot to do there, actually, when you look at what's happening with the large language models we've been talking about previously. There's an enormous algorithm which takes so many, thousands of billions of parameters. And it's a bit like when we looked at from the view of 30 years before, when we started to work with Eve. And at that time, mathematical statistics, which I learned and which then I taught, what about 100 parameters? It was already quite a lot of things. And now we have the feeling that we're in a sort of incredible race for complexity of algorithm. And then the question, of course, we have many questions with the complexity of algorithm. There is a question of explainability, for instance. But there is also, to some extent, the question about energy, because at each new layer of deep learning, if you don't care about it, it's additional energy which is needed. So maybe a question to Yves Cazot would be, you're heading vast and talented IT and AI teams. You have incredible developers, incredible data scientists. And we all know when you've managed this kind of geeks that they love to produce something ever more complex. And so how do you actually handle this? And is things like green by design or explainable by design or parsimonious by design, could those things become the new attractor for those talents?
So it starts with awareness. And before you move to the solution, you have to understand that it's a very fair question. You need to know when you're developing a solution, what are you trying to achieve and what is your CO2 impact? And thanks to my colleagues, we've made progress here. And we want to develop frugality, which is not to say we won't use IT software, machine learning, because it's bad for the planet, but we are going to say, whenever we do something that has a negative impact, we know the positive impact, and we make sure that the positive is much more than the negative. And when you're there, you can start talking about green by design or frugality. And I'm going to give a very practical example. Data centers, their electric consumption over the years have been rather stable, contrary to what we read everywhere. So the number of servers has grown very, very fast, 200 terawatt-hours in 2000, 2010, 2020, more or less, give or take 10%. It's starting to grow a little bit because of AI and more GPUs, but still, it's less than 1% and it's rather stable. However, next to it, there's blockchain. Blockchain a couple of years ago was invisible. 2020, it was 100 terawatt. So blockchain, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin mining was half of everything else we do with IT, YouTube included, and so on. So that's for me the awareness. That is, when you start going to put something on blockchain, do you need the beauty of the Byzantine general distributed trust or not? And in 99% you don't. If you use an equivalent blockchain like Hyperledger, it's invisible. It's so small, the consumption, we would know. So that to me is important, being aware, understanding. And I say, understand your negative impact because there is positive impact. Pierre-Martin Huet, who is in charge of supply chain at Michelin, tells me if we improve the way we pack trucks, the benefit is more than the total CO2 impact of IT, digital and IT at Michelin. So we have challenges for which we are very right to use AI and machine learning. We have also services that maybe are not that necessary. So it's all a matter of balance. And I'll stop there. Awareness is critical, especially because you cannot believe what you read. I'm very surprised at how much there are actually few people in the research science world that are studying this seriously. So, like, if you look at the ADEME report and you find that they work with think tank, and then you have a large number of people who have opinions. But you look at published, peer-reviewed science. It's a handful of papers, and we need more. So I'll stop there, but it's very important for the planet that we understand what we do, but it's also important that we have the facts.
Yeah, so there's a big issue about, awareness and public and scientific reference and, a serious taking on this issue. Maybe I'll come up now to Georges for the second question. Your community is more physicists than computer scientists, at least at the beginning of the story of quantum. Now, could physicists be more passionate about energy saving and parsimony than the computer scientists that find some difficulty to motivate themselves with this issue? Do you think it's more manageable to have physicists really, get motivated to tackle those energy issues?
The obvious answer is that they are all motivated. They are all concerned by this issue. Believe me, I mean, the physicist, the data scientist, the support functions, every employee inside the company is concerned by that. And my first answer was, okay, it's a question of generation, because I mean the average age of the employee is around 30 at Pascal. But actually, it was my first answer, but I think I was wrong, because I mean, obviously, we are part of the same generation, and we are concerned by this issue. When I met Christelle Michelsen for the first time, so Christelle Michelsen is leading the Jülich data center in Germany, and she was also part of a jury. When I met her, it was back in 2019, just after the creation of Pascal. I was pitching her my company, my product, supercomputer, high-performance computing. I mean, you will see what you will get, blah, blah, blah. And she told me, oh, George, calm down. I mean, if you do everything like we are doing now with classical computers, same level of performance, same computing time, but using 10 times less energy, you get something. And it was a shock for me to say, okay, this is true. And I changed my mind, and I realized that, okay, we need to take our part in this story. Building a device which is low energy intensive is not enough. And again, we are building a tool, but we cannot control everything that will be done with this tool, but organize a hackathon like this, building a community around the product, and to use it for good things. I think it's part of asking the question, why do we build this new tool?
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the co-organizers of this event today is GENSI, this national organization in France, which has, those big machines. And Stéphane Requena told me, at the end of the day, energy is our biggest budget. Energy is our biggest budget. So we have a solution that consumes 10 times less energy. Now, that's top of my agenda. And first for economic reasons before sustainable development. And I think myself, I've been working in some kind of sustainable ventures for some years. And when you miss this kind of alignment between economics and sustainable development, you do not go very far. Whereas when you are able to align things and say, come on, man, if you take 10 times less energy, it's going to take 10 times less budget. Then that's great. That's great. That's a great motivation.
And just to build on that, I can also give a point of view of the final end users. Because here we are talking about the, let's say, the owner of the operators of a supercomputer. But let me tell you this story. I mean, I was pitching a potential customer for the future, so presenting the company, the quantum solution we could offer them. And, you know, the discussion was like this. And suddenly, I mentioned the fact that the quantum computer was very low energy intensive, needed only 5 kilowatt of power. And suddenly, I mean, there were 4 of them, they got excited. They were moving on their chairs. What? Okay, I can quantify all my algorithm and change my data center. I can save electricity because my boss is asking me to reduce the electricity bill at the end of the month. The regulations are asking me to reduce my carbon footprint. And then we had something. So I think we are all impacted and all concerned.
So we'll move now maybe to the last chapter of our roundtable and move into strategy, right? You know, how can what we've been talking about become a real strategic asset, you know? Is it just, you know, a nice discussion for the 400th anniversary of Blaise Pascal? Or do we have something that could constitute an asset in a worldwide competition, which is quite intense on AI quantum? So much money poured by everyone, and maybe much, much more in the United States and China than here. So do we have a kind of strategic advantage here, or not yet? So I will maybe start with Guillaume Avrin. Have your point of view. You've been talking about frugal AI as part of the national strategy. Now, could this, is this part of the strategic advantage France wants to build? And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So I think France indeed and Europe most probably, but I will focus on France as indeed a competitive advantage regarding frugal AI or the deployment of AI system in a sustainable way in our society and our companies. The first reason for that is the infrastructure we have to train the model, like the supercomputing facilities. If you look at Janzé in the Plateau de Saclay and Adastra in the south of France, both of them are supercomputing facilities that are in, you know, the top 500 and recognized as a competitive supercomputing facilities in a performance point of view, but also regarding their efficiency. And in fact, the way, I'm not an expert on supercomputing, but the way the cooling of the GPUs and CPUs is done, and the way the network is built in order to reuse the heat that is produced by the supercomputing facilities is very, very optimized. So the infrastructure that are used to train the model are frugal themselves and very competitive with this regard. You were talking about large language model. I will do a small remark about that at the end of this intervention. But if we look at the large language model we are producing in France, for example, the one that are produced by Mistral, the 7 billion parameters model that have been released, the last one, we can say it's frugal when we look at the other large language models that are on the market. 7 billion parameter is not, it's not a lot. It's not a big LLM systems, but the performances of this Mistral 7B models were better than all the other 7 billion parameters LLM on the market, and it was the same level as approximately the same level of performance as Llama V2, that is 13 billion parameters size LLM that is produced by the Meta group. So for a specific number of parameters, the model we are developing are very competitive. So there is also this interest of being able to reach a certain level of performance without having very big models. That's the second point. Another very important point, of course, as you know, is that the carbon intensity of our electrical grid is very low. We have nuclear energy. It's a decarbonized energy, so we should definitely capitalize on the work that have been done in the past decennies regarding the development of nuclear energy in France, in order to having AI systems that are trained or used in an efficient point of view regarding the sustainability of the deployment of these systems. And the last point, I think, and the reason why Europe is competitive regarding frugal AI is because there is a link between frugal AI and embedded AI. If you want to be able to have AI systems that are working locally for your company, because you want to avoid your data to be sent somewhere and to not control what is done with your data, then you will need to have models that are able to work in your plant, in your company, in your home, maybe for personal agent systems. And so in order to have these systems that are working locally, you have to have systems that are not very big and that are very efficient. So it's another point, and so there is embedded because working locally, or it could be also because you want it to work on your smartphone, you want it to work on your autonomous car or car in general, and so you need to be able to embed these AI technologies that has to be very efficient for an energy consumption point of view, and for the computing time that you need in order to use the model. So we know that the industrial grid is very dense in Europe. There is a huge opportunity in Europe for the B2B AI, the use cases of AI that are for companies and not for the general public. We know that in the US and in Asia, the AI system they are developing is more B2C than B2B. So it's also a very important opportunity that we have to take right now at a European level. That means, so I think we have everything to be competitive regarding frugality for AI. I wanted just to say one remark regarding large language model, because you spoke about that at the introduction of this last session of the roundtable. We are not sure for the moment that the impact of generative AI or a large language model more specifically on the environment is bad in comparison with the way we were developing and deploying AI system before the ChatGPT buzz and the large deployment of generative AI in our society in general. And the reason for that is that it's true that these models are very big, and the training of this model is very the energy consumption for the training of this model is very big. But what is interesting with foundation models, these models are called foundation models because you can fine-tuning them in order to apply them to specific application areas. And what is interesting with this concept of foundation model is that once you have trained the system, you do not have to retrain it like 1,000 times in order to apply it to many different application areas. And the way we were doing AI before is really, very specific, narrow AI system that were dedicated to a very specific application in a very specific area, such as healthcare or I don't know, transportation and so on. Whereas we are going toward a transition in the value chain of AI with foundation models that can be trained once and then reused for many different application areas. So maybe the impact of the training of AI is the transition from a lot of small models towards few big models is not that bad for the environment. I think we do not have the answer yet. It's a small announcement, but still it's something. We are launching at the beginning of 2024 a working group that will be dedicated to this question, trying to have a very scientific and approach towards this question, the development of metrics, evaluation protocols, ways to characterize the environmental impact of this AI technology end to end, right? Regarding all the aspects, all the technological bricks, technological components of the value chain of generative AI. So we do not have the answer yet, but maybe the answer is not that simple of just saying, okay, the model are bigger, so the energy impact is worse than what we were doing before.
Yeah, so there's a nice life cycle analysis and system science and rebound effect analysis to be done on your promise is, okay, I train a very big model, but it's been used so many times that, believe me, it's going to be less. Okay, so we understand you will be working there. See you next year to see the result of that study. So we'll come to the end of the round table, maybe ask for a last word on the quantum side. We know on the quantum side there's so much money. You told me competitors that drive so much thing. And amid all that, is this quantum energy thing a real asset, or is it just a byproduct for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, compared to AI, there is very few money injected in quantum technology, believe me. We are still one order of magnitude below AI in terms of investment. But again, I think we are competitive in Europe, especially in France, regarding this aspect. I think it was one of your points of the topic. We at Pascal, we succeeded raising more than 140 million euros in total since the beginning, and we are at the right level to compete against the other continents. And indeed, I think we have an edge with this energy consumption because, the holy grail in quantum is to reach the so-called quantum advantage, the point where a quantum computer will beat classical technologies. So it means maybe better performances, better accuracy in predicting something. It could be reduced computing time, but it can also be same thing than before, using less energy. And I think this point has been already reached by Pascal because we implemented a use case with Crédit Agricole, and a real one, using their real data set. We were able to benchmark against their solution in production, and we were on par with their result. But instead of using a supercomputer, we were using a quantum computer. So it could be a way of putting these devices on the market earlier than the others. So I think it's an advantage indeed.
So it's very exciting. I want also to meet again in 1 year, maybe with some of you, Georges, to see what road he will have made forward on that issue. And maybe the last word for this session to Yves Cazot. Michelin is a world company and also, I imagine, a very competitive sector. So what we're talking about, sustainable computing, is it like a pipe dream, or could be attractive enough and competitive enough to be a true part of your commercial operations?
So I'm going to pivot. And to answer a strategic question about why is AI absolutely critical to solve the global warming mitigation problem, which I think is a big issue for everybody, but especially for us. I'll start with the cost of carbon. So you may have heard of the term social cost of carbon. So the question is, what are the bases to set up the carbon tax, the price per ton of carbon? It's a hot debated topic. There are 2 papers in Nature last year, including one signed by 2 Nobel Prizes, and that says very simply, the price that we've used, proposed by the economists for the last 10 years, is much too low. That's the one that US agencies are using. That's the one that company was using, and it's a key. It's very practical because it decides your investment. You will say, I will invest in a new technology if the price of carbon is high. If it's lower, business as usual. You could say, okay, but what does the GIEC say? So IPCC in English. You look at the report, you will find it doesn't say much. That is, on impacts, it's the work group 3. There are pages, there are very detailed pages about all the bad things that will happen, with dots, double dots, 4 dots, but no numbers. And we all know that nature abhors vacuum. So if there are no numbers there, It's invented by other people, and which is why we have this debate. Surprisingly, I'm back to what I was saying. I think the government and governments in the world should invest into more science in terms of impact. It's not a surprise, it's hard. It's hard. If you look at the paper I was quoting from Nature, they are using a Berkeley model called GIVE. It's amazingly simple. It's very naive. So we need, and we're back to what you were saying earlier, we need to use advanced simulation, game theory. I can tell you why. There was a paper in The Guardian a week ago about the countries that produce fossil oil said, we're very happy, lots of demand, we have the fossil oil, our outcome, our forecast for 2030 is we're going to grow more coal, more gas, more. So lots of outcry, how come they're saying this? And it's a game theory problem. That is, if in Europe we decide to do everything well, but in other parts of the world people don't care and they keep going for the growth, what do we do? So there is a solution for this called the CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So it's a big joke, this thing. It's a lot, and we need simulation tools. So back to what you were saying, we need much more advanced simulation tools. Remember what DeepMind is doing? DeepMind is doing a very advanced simulation with agent models. And I'll stop there. The point I just want to make, and by the way, when you want to run those models, we are going to be very happy if we have quantum computers to do that, because otherwise it's sort of years of computing. But if we don't, I can tell you, we will use very stupid Excel-based model, data-driven model. If you try to foresee what will happen in 2050 with +2 degrees based on your statistics from agriculture for the last decades, you're going the wrong direction. So that's for me is why AI is so important for our global warming crisis.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We need Pascaline to face those sustainability challenges, not just in use cases, not just in optimizing the IT consumption, but also to drive governance and to look into scenarios, simulation, and fight all together. That's very fascinating. Thank you very much.